Good morning. Welcome to Our Town at Comma Coffee. I'm Kurt Caraway. This morning we're talking with Larry Werner, City Manager, about the City Center project. Right now we're going to take a short break for a word from our sponsor.
Never before have two words said so much. I am is what motivates us every day.
I am grateful.
I am is what drives us to treat each patient like family.
I am blessed.
And I am is what you can depend on when you need it most.
I am a survivor.
I heal.
I care.
I am Carson Tahoe.
And we're back talking with Larry Werner. How are you doing this morning?
Doing well, Kurt. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. We've been trying to get you on for a while because, I mean, there's a fairly large project that that people have been talking about for a long time. The City Center project, or Nugget project. I mean,
right.
You know, but you and your staff have been doing a heck of a lot of work trying to get all the details of this, you know, going, right? So.
And that's right. And it's been somewhat of a problem in just the process, because I think we got the project out there a little bit maybe too early, and we didn't have a lot of details. Yeah. And so right now what we're trying to do is get through the phase that says, yes, we've got a viable project, yes, it's fundable, that sort of thing. And actually when we took it before the advisory committee just about a month or a month and a half ago, that's ultimately the decision we wanted to get from the committee was, is this worth taking forward to the Board of Supervisors, and with the recommendation that yes, we should continue to the next step, or no, we should just stop it. And the committee did say, let's take it to the next step. Yeah. But there were some questions that needed to be answered. And those were, you know, trying to finalize where the hotel portion of the project, if it's constructed, where it would be. Would it be east of the Nugget building itself, or would it be across the street on the Arlington Square site? There was a question about the location of the parking garage. Did it need to be closer to the potential site for the library? There was a question about parking itself. There was a question about the office buildings, the private office buildings. Where should be the first building go there? And then there was a question about the transit hub and which property it was on. So even though those were all questions, there were alternatives for all of those, and no matter which one we picked, you could still make it a viable project. But we thought, before we take it to the Board of Supervisors, let's try to put flesh to those questions and get them resolved. And we did do that. We met with with P3, who's the developer for the project. We met with the Nugget, which is the landowner for the project, and then our own staff. And ultimately, the location of the hotel appears to be on the Arlington Square, is the most viable site for the Nugget, which then freed up the area on the east side of the Nugget for moving the parking garage, future development, kind of making that more viable for the plaza, the library, that sort of thing. So that worked out. And then we got into detail on the parking itself, and we had two issues there. One was the minimum amount of parking required. And that's by code, how much do you have. And then there's the other number, which is the practical amount that you should have to make sure everybody can function correctly. And so I had staff go through that, particularly the planning department, go through, and they first looked at the required number of parking spaces, and that had been met. And then in discussions with the Nugget, the developer, we thought there needed to be more spaces than just the required amount, so that people have an opportunity to take advantage of this. So that translated into, okay, how big is the parking garage? And it actually turned out to be that the numbers that were being used were correct. So at least we could put validity to the numbers that we had. And at that point, we also started talking about the location of the transit center, and the more we got into that, we decided that really it didn't make any difference to the project. So in reality, we moved the transit center out of the project, and we'll leave it on its own site.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break right now and come right back after word from our sponsor.
Care. It's a word we hear every day. But what does it really mean?
It means loving what you do.
Care is respect, dignity, kindness, and joy.
It means being passionate about what you do.
Care is what we do every day.
It means everything to my patients.
I am healthcare that does care.
I am Carson Tahoe.
And we're back. We were talking about, the hotel. Now you're talking about, because this was the thing. I mean, the hotel was originally kind of planned to be behind the Nugget there on the east side, and then they talked about the Arlington Square part where the ice rink is now.
Correct.
And so now you're saying that's really the most viable place for the hotel. Well, now where's the parking? What would the parking for that hotel be? Because if that seems a little small there.
They'd actually have some parking on site, and then the majority of it though would be in part of the parking garage behind the Nugget.
Behind the Nugget.
So you'd have, I would assume it'd be things like valet parking, or and I would estimate there would probably be a pedestrian crosswalk across Carson Street that would tie to the Nugget.
Okay.
Because still, when they talk about the event center, that appears to be with the hotel also. Or it could be, no, I guess it's still left with the hotel. That made more sense. So, but that portion of it is totally being funded by private dollars,
right?
And they'll make the determination. But I think based on their looking at their investors, potential investors, they wanted something on Carson Street, so that's why they picked that. But we needed to get that kind of finalized so we knew what the parking.
Well, yeah, obviously, if you don't know where the hotel's going to be, that's a little tough.
It is very tough. Yeah.
So now you talked about the library and the public plaza. Is that now moving a little to the north on that property? And we'll get a graphic up of this so people can see.
No, that actually will stay in the same spot.
Okay.
But what we can do now is we'd actually shown the parking structure, I believe, for the committee to be kind of away from the plaza with some development space between the plaza and the parking structure. There was a question about whether or not the parking structure should be more adjacent to the library and plaza, and this would allow that to happen. And then there would probably be potential for more retail development that would occur around the parking structure, but we've kind of just at this stage indicated that all is structure/development. And again, what we're trying to get to is a point that we now would get the Board of Supervisors to direct staff to do the development agreements with the developer and get these details absolutely finalized. So.
Okay. And so now the parking garage, you said you looked at all the parking in that, and the parking garage holds how many cars? Is it?
I believe it was about 400 to 450, somewhere in that neighborhood.
All right. So that's going to work out, and the price tag for that looks like it's about the same as they presented before.
Yes, and I should have brought the numbers with me, Kirk. I didn't do it. But between the cost of the parking garage, the cost of the library, and the plaza, and I think the transit center, when we looked at all of that, it appeared to be fundable the way the project's being put together, which is basically take all those costs, amortize them into a monthly lease payment, and then look at a lease period of about 20 years. The city would pay monthly lease payments at the end of the time period. The buildings and the land underneath the buildings would transfer to the city. I believe the plaza and the parking structure, the land would still remain a portion of the foundation, which is would ultimately be the owner of the property that came from Maybe Adams Trust. But what they've agreed to do is apply to those lease payments to the maintenance, either to the plaza and the parking structure. So that'll offset some of the city's costs.
Okay. Now, so because this has been one of these points of confusion on this, because when it first came out of who owned the land and how it gets transferred, I know that's been huge questions back and forth, and I know that and it's tough to explain it to people, but the land is owned by the foundation, the May or Hop and May Adams Foundation
Trust,
or didn't they transfer the land? It was owned by the trust. Now they transferred it to the foundation, or is it? Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Or will be transferred foundation, whichever one it is. The foundation will then be, leasing that land to the city, and then over at the end of the lease, turning the land over, at least part of it, or okay.
Correct.
So, but they're not going to turn the part over under the parking garage, or is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Right.
So
at this stage, that's
at this stage.
Right.
Okay. So, but the part under the library, they're going to turn over. But the part under the plaza and the parking garage.